Hi, shalom, friends. You know, marriage is an institution that most people have strong opinions on, even those that are not married. And not only do most people have opinions and strong opinions about marriage, but often when they describe a marriage, unsolicited, they add their own commentary. So you might say, do you know, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so? And they say, oh, yeah, they're happily married, or they're unhappily married, or they just roll their eyes, oh, what a couple, or what a couple, and so on and so forth. It's amazing that people have such strong feelings about the married state and the marriage in general. I obviously believe very strongly, think it's a divine institution. I have no doubt, no shadow of a doubt, that's the best thing for a human being is to be married. But what I've often found intriguing is why we marry the person we marry. Not why do we marry, but why do we choose that particular spouse? Everyone has their reasons, and let me share with you my theory. It's not very complicated, it's actually quite simple. And that is, none of us are complete, so therefore there are many qualities that we would like to have that we don't. So for example, if I'm not the most secure person, I admire those people that have a lot of self-confidence. If I'm a shy person, I'm often jealous of a person who seems to be able to get along with everyone and enjoy it. If I have no way of tracking money, I don't know where it comes, where it goes, I look at a person who's put together and knows where every cent is with great respect, and so on and so forth. So I believe that we actually go out with a person, we date a person, get to know a person, and when we find the quality that we admire most, which we do believe is a good quality, otherwise it wouldn't mean much to us, and we find someone else that seems to be exemplifying it, we say to ourselves, that's a quality I want to incorporate in my life. So I'm going to marry this person, so their qualities become mine. So if, for example, good looks has always been very important to you, so when you're going out and you're looking at your prospective mate and they're extremely good looking, that's something that you want to feel, and you say to yourself, wow, I always admired good looking people, and that good looking person is interested in me. You know what? I won't even investigate that deeply about character, because the good looks is what I admire, and that's what I believe I could absorb from this relationship. If you're the person who is very shy, or you're very serious, and you go out with a person who makes you laugh, and who's able to make the people around them laugh, and you say to yourself, wow, this is such a beautiful thing, I wish I had it. You know what, I can have it. Let me marry this person, and then it'll become our quality, and so on. And I could go through a long list of extrovert, introvert, person who's somewhat pessimistic, goes out with a person who's really buoyant, who always has a nice thing to say about life, and you're thinking to yourself, I admire that. That's what I want in my life. That's who I'm going to marry. And that becomes the attraction and the glue that causes us to actually commit to each other. Well, so far so good. But here's where it gets really interesting. After marriage, what happens is that the asset that brought us closer together becomes the main issue that we disagree on. So the fellow who always was laughing and always made me laugh, and I said to myself, boy, what a wonderful balance it would be if I could incorporate that type of a personality into my life. Suddenly, somewhere in the marriage, you turn it to your spouse and you say, you know, you never take anything seriously. I'm telling you about this, I'm telling you about that. I need a serious response, and you're just making light of it. And of course, the spouse innocently responds, I thought that's what you liked about me, that I don't take life that seriously. And you say, yes, but there's a time and a place for everything. If you're the type of a person who unfortunately finds it very difficult to spend money, and you're going out with this person who buys things and is happy to buy things and buy things for others, and that admiration in your mind turns into admiration in your heart, which equals love, and then you fall in love with this guy, and then suddenly, somewhere in the marriage, you realize he just spends money without thinking. And you say, it's very important that we put aside and set aside things for the future and what's going to be for this. And the person says, don't worry, we have the money, let's just use it. And it becomes an issue to both discuss and to not only discuss, but to argue about. So the point that I'm making is, it's amazing. The thing that we saw as an asset then becomes a liability. What makes a good marriage a good marriage? Not a person who doesn't see flaws in their spouse. A person who realizes that the flaws that they see in their spouse are perhaps the attractiveness of the spouse. And marriage means not overlooking it, but realizing it and utilizing it in a positive way. So here you are, you're a person who, if it's not penciled in the calendar, you don't do it because it's not planned. You're going out with a person who's spontaneous. They change their plans in a minute and they keep you excited. And you want to bring that dimension into your life. And then after, and I'm making this up, 3 years of marriage, it really bothers you that this person calls you up in the middle of work and says, let's take off tomorrow. And you say, what do you mean, let's take off tomorrow? We have to go to Mother tomorrow. And he says, come on, don't be so rigid. Be a little bit spontaneous. Or perhaps you were thinking of something, and then spontaneously he surprised you with something else, and it causes you a lot of discord. And you get angry, and you say to the fellow, you have no sense of, that's a bad marriage. Or better yet, that's a marriage which is looking at the flaw. What's a good marriage? Realizing that it's not always an asset, but how to make it as an asset into your life. Imagine for a moment how rigid your life was before you met this person who was so spontaneous. Obviously, you can't always be spontaneous, and incidentally, that's why that person married you. That person was looking for order. But when you begin to realize the assets are flaws, but the flaws can be incorporated as assets, then we have a working relationship. Now, why am I bringing this in? Because here I'm going to suggest something a little bit out of the box. And that is, I look at the Torah and I find that there are places in the Torah where the Almighty God, who loves us dearly and has chosen us to be not only his children, but is likened in the book of Song of Songs to a loving relationship between a husband and a wife, he gives us some really harsh criticism. For example, he says, you are a stiff-necked people. Now, usually, stubborn, you're a stubborn people. Now, in the Chumash, it's actually used in a negative way. I keep on making miracles for you. I keep on educating you, directing you, providing for you, and stubbornly you refuse to get the message. But perhaps, actually, that criticism is actually a compliment. Because we are so stubborn as a people, we've never given up our basic religion over 3,300 years. Because we're stubborn, we keep the Shabbos, we keep the kosher, we always feel that Israel is our land and Jerusalem is our capital and the temple will be restored and goodness will reign. Why? Because stubbornly we refuse to give up. So being stubborn, good, bad? Well, it depends when you use it and how you use it. If God calls us, since I've known you, I took you out of Egypt, you've been a rebellious people. Good or bad? No, it's a criticism. We've been rebellious. But is that a true flaw? Could it not be read in a deeper way that you don't take authority easily? You don't just follow because someone said so. You don't even follow when it seems to be self-serving. You're a rebellious people. You're looking for truth. You rebel against conformity. Is that not a strength in terms of our Judaism? And I could go through over and over and over, even something as heinous as, here I am, and you've been unfaithful to me, says the Almighty, and you've gone after strange gods, which could be likened to a form of adultery. But why are we looking for strange gods? The answer is we're looking for a spiritual thrill. We're looking to be exalted in our spirituality. And unfortunately, instead of feeling it the way we should with our spouse, with our loyal Father in heaven, we've strayed elsewhere. But the basic idea to look for a spiritual experience and not to be satisfied with the mundane, could that not be seen as an asset? So as in a marriage, we're going to be attracted to qualities that we actually admire, though I could guarantee you, without being a prophet, that often those very same qualities will be a source of irritation. And it will be a long process, and perhaps a very rewarding process, of maturing and understanding that what attracted you was truly attractive. It was truly something special. The spontaneity, the sense of joy, the outgoing, the whatever it might be. They're really good. They could be abused and they could be taken advantage of. But be wise. Incorporate it for your benefit. When it comes to lahavdil, to make a separation, when we talk about the way God looks at us and describes us and criticizes us, we should actually, and I say this only as a perhaps those are really implied compliments. You're a stubborn, rebellious people. Now use it for something good. Well, how would you qualify yourself? Stubborn and rebellious, open and receptive? Wherever you are, and however you define yourself, I am sure you will be able to incorporate it and have it merge into a larger picture of goodness and of kindness. Shalom.